Welcome to your second Excel and Tableau tutorial where we're going to dive a lot deeper. So hopefully you've obviously found this video, you're getting comfortable with how things will look. You can get just a general sense of what you're hoping or what I'm hoping that you kind of take away. We're really going to explore some of the key capabilities of Excel and Tableau, demonstrate some proficiency in moving around, getting data organized, ready for visualization. And then we're going to design sort of a comprehensive interactive dashboard that would get multiple visuals that are interacting with one another while applying sort of our best practices. As we go through the due date, you'll see this by the time you open the assignment. But check D2L / your learn or / Brightslate / your learning management system. I'll have it kind of posted there. So assignment overview. I'll try to make these as real worldish as possible here. So you're going to be a new data analyst at Desert Vine Wine Company. This is a boutique wine distributor in Scottsdale, Arizona. The company specializes in importing and distributing premium wines from around the world to restaurants, wine bars, retail stores throughout the entire Southwest here in the U.S. The sales manager has asked you to analyze the company's wine portfolio data to better understand market trends and customer preferences. The analysis will begin, right? We are just getting started with helping the team make informed decisions about the wine features in their upcoming seasonal catalog, which regions or styles to focus on, for maybe some new partnerships. Really, they're interested in some very basic, broad overview questions here. We'll narrow things down as we get better at this, but we're really working in that exploratory phase. But looking at things like countries and regions that produce the highest rated wines, how price correlates with rating, which wine styles are the most popular, and we'll say that as based on the number of ratings. Which you could argue with me, but I wouldn't blame you. But for now, this is what the boss said, so we're going to follow him. And then just how do things look across various years and types. The analysis is going to help with the sales team identifying promising wines to promote new partnerships. It is an intro assignment, so we are just getting started with Excel and Tableau, so we're not going to change the wine world here just yet. But we're going to start and kind of build a solid foundation that in the future we'll be able to just, it'll be kind of intuitive, all the small things, and so we can focus on broader concepts. The key things, we'll work on basic filtering, sorting, creating calculated fields in Tableau, that's like how we create variables, creating various charts, and then building a dashboard layout that helps, again, the viewer or the team explore the data. Please be sure you are following along carefully as these things build. If you miss an earlier step, you won't be able to do the following step as you go through. In terms of required materials, hopefully everyone has this, but you should make sure that you have the most up-to-date version of Excel. The first assignment should have gotten you that. And then the Tableau desktop public app and the Tableau public account. So again, this icon down here, opening up Tableau public, this is where you're going. We're going to work off public. If you're working off desktop, that's fine. You just have to be a little bit careful on how you save, but for most of the time, we're going to work in public. It works with everything that we need. And then let me go back to our assignment here. All that's in the Excel file or in the technology requirements that you've seen. And then you should have this Excel file where it's kind of hideous at the beginning. But what you're going to do is we're going to first clean up the data here in Excel, and then we'll save it, import it into Tableau, build it, save it to your profile, and then you're going to enter the URL to your Tableau public profile, and specifically that visual here, which I'll show you how to do. And then you're going to save this file, and this is what you're actually going to submit to D2L Brightspace, and it will look hideous because it doesn't like Excel files. That's okay. We always download the original as we go through there. Evaluation, I just need you to follow along, right? I'm going to be looking to make sure you did all of the steps that I did, and if you didn't, you lose points. If you did, you get all the points. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Yeah, I have that kind of outline. If you have questions, you can always post to the Ask Your Instructor Flex tutorials discussion thread. You can email me, the GA for the course, anything like that. So let's just hop on in and get started. We're going to start again in Excel, And again, I have the data split because I want you just to get as much practice as possible. But I would typically start if I have a data set like this, and I'm just going to start cleaning things up just to get it kind of ready for if I want to use it later. So a lot of times people just jump in and start going crazy with it, which is not what I want to do, right? I generally want to get to know my data a little bit and go through. And again, you'll learn if a lot of this is fast for you in Excel, please go watch those kind of tutorials that you go through. So I generally like to always just drag across the top, double click initially between them, just to kind of go ahead and get things to kind of auto fit to the widest length. And then usually I'll kind of mess around with the view here so that it's maybe a little bit cleaner and closer to what I want. I like to keep things here. My theme, I like the blue and the white, just a clear delineation. Something like this. If I have something to sort on, I generally like to, just so I kind of have it. So it's just easy for me to open this and kind of see what's going on. And if there were any kind of formatting on these documents, like I would go ahead and do it, like currency or percentages or anything like that. But this sheet looks pretty good, so I would jump to price rating. And again, these are named effectively. Usually they're like sheet 1, sheet 2, but we want to make sure they're common because if we come back to them a month later, we should know what they are. So here I'll drag across, and again, if you see my cursor, if you drag anywhere between these, right, it goes through and it auto like fits it as long as you double click. Again, I do recommend a mouse, so double click means double click, whether it's on a Mac or PC. Then I try to be consistent. Some people like, so if I do Control or Command Z, some people really like to go ahead and throw in these underline bars. That's fine too. I like that. I think that's kind of clean and delineated. I just generally also, I just like to have kind of that double break. If I was building a table or anything like that, I may go further or something in that case. Let's see, this space bugs me. You don't have to fix that, but it would be something that I do. And then overall, this looks relatively good. Notice you can actually auto fit doing horizontal as well if that's something that you're kind of interested in. I like to go through and kind of see the format. So I'm working on a little bit of a smaller screen here. If yours is smaller as well, you may have to expand. But just kind of setting the things up kind of formatting wise, understanding if there's any blanks or errors or missing data or anything like that, or just understand like some people like when something's set up as an accounting. A lot of times you'll get data and it's just in the general format, right? Where I want it to be obvious what it is. And so I will typically go ahead. I kind of like currency. Some people don't like that because it's kind of squished in. You can also do accounting. It doesn't really matter to me. It's entirely your kind of preference. Notice if it is accounting, and let's say this was like a negative 38, something like that, it will use brackets, so you'll have to get kind of comfortable. Whereas if it's just in that normal, where are we at here, currency mode, it will just display it as negative. I'm going to undo that because I don't want to mess up my data as we go in. And so let's go ahead and just again combine the data. So create a new sheet. I'm going to right click and rename. So I may do something like full data, something of that nature, where I can get it, especially if my computer's running slow, it makes sense to kind of go ahead and combine them. You could honestly do it here, but I like to kind of show you a couple of keyboard shortcuts or just general things. So I could click and drag, copy, paste. If you're clicked anywhere in the data and you know there are no spaces or anything, you can hold Control, or if you're on a Mac, Command, and then hit A, and it will do it all. Another way is just to go to this very top right corner and click, and it highlights all the data, whether it's blanks or not. So entirely up to you. Just select all the data, copy it, go over to full data, and I will just paste. And then again, I'm gonna go to price rating, and I could sort this. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and do it just to show you. So I would hover across this and do data sort, and then I will sort it on unique wine ID. If you're just seeing column A and B, just check this box. You always want to do it, especially if you have a header. It looks a little bit different, I think, on a Mac, but the same intuitive approach goes. I'm going to do smallest to largest and do okay. And theoretically, if I knew there were a match on these, I could just copy paste this next to one another, but I always want to kind of be safe. And so what I'm going to do is I again will use my X lookup. So I'm going to go, I know these are the columns that I want. So I'm going to Control or Command C, go to full data. I'll go right next to it and I'll paste. And then again, you always have to kind of format to make them fit a little bit better. And so here's how I would do it. And this is how fast I need you to get to be eventually. So it's just equals X lookup. Right? And what do I want to look up? Well, I want to look up this unique wine ID, comma, well, where? Well, it's somewhere on the price and rating sheet, right? And it's somewhere in column A, right? Comma. Then if it finds it, oh, remember last time the commas were throwing us off? We're gonna have to rename again, right? I should have done that, but a good practice. So rename, and then I'll just do underscore, right? And underscore. That's honestly a best practice as well. I shouldn't be using commas there because I know better. So I'll just anywhere there's, so I don't like spaces either. It doesn't like them. So I'll do that. And then we'll do the X lookup. So equals X lookup. All right. So this unique wine ID, comma. All right. Notice I already have the general wine characteristics. That's why I'm going to price and rating. Click on column A, comma. So it's going to find that unique wine ID. And then what column do I want back? Well, I want column B back. All right, and then comma, I want to tell it if not found. So I always like the quotes and then N/A, but you can put whatever you want. You do need the quotes because you're asking it to return a one, or you're asking it to return a word instead of a number. And notice I wouldn't want a number back, right? I wouldn't want a 0 because then it would be treating the number of ratings as 0, even if it didn't find it, which is nuts, right? We don't want to do that, so we always want to be safe. All right, so then I'll do exact match. Anything in brackets is technically optional. If you see this, like if not found in the brackets and the match mode and the search mode, that's optional. I don't actually know what the search mode is. Oh, it's search from first to last. For us, it's not going to matter. And so I'm just going to delete, close, hit enter, and it should equal 100. All right, it works. That makes sense. And then now I know what I want to do, right? I want this formula to go right and then down, right? But if I think through the logic of this, right, I wish I could make this a little bit bigger, right? But I don't want this initial piece to drag with it. I only want it to move down. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to lock only the horizontal. So I'm going to hold shift and then it's the 4 key for most of us. And so this $ is saying, lock the horizontal movement because it's in front of the letters. And you'll notice in Excel, the titles are A, B, C, D for all the columns. And so that's why it will lock any column movement. But I'm not going to put a $ in front of the 2 because I do want it to move down if I drag or double click. And then if I think the same thing over here, right, I don't want the price rating that column A. I don't want that to move left or right. So I think I only need the $ here because it's a whole column. But I do want the second column, so what it gives me back to move. So I want it to move from the number of ratings to the average rating. The other stuff isn't cell dependent, and so it won't move. And so I'll hit enter, and it'll look like nothing happened. And then I'll say a short, like, I hope this works. I'll go to the bottom right corner. You should see your cursor change, right? I'm going to double click and just drag it right, right? And so everything should move, right? And so I have a mistake here. Okay, so what happened is it's now looking in all of column A and B. So I do need, right, if I go back, I'm going to put a $ here, right? And just hit enter. And then note it doesn't update where I dragged. Right, I have to go back, right, drag over again. And then this doesn't, it looks like something's an error, but it's just not wide enough. Then as long as, again, you're next to other data, double click down. And we always check to make sure it works. So I'm like looking in this cell and I'm seeing, okay, A3, it went down, which is good. It's still in column A, still in column B. Then I go over, column C, this didn't change, this didn't change, this all looks good. So it matches, which is really nice. You can do the same thing with VLOOKUP. So if you have XLOOKUP, fast forward to the next section. If you don't have it, so VLOOKUP, or if you just want to be impressive in an interview, you can do some too. So VLOOKUP, and I always have to think about this stupid thing. So the lookup value is the same, comma. The table array is both the column has to be first on the left, what you're looking for, and then the data that you want is to the right. So I'm just going to click and drag from A to E, and then comma, it's asking what column index do I want back? Well, what number was number of ratings in? That was in the, it counts the first one if I remember correctly, which it shouldn't, which is crazy, right? So it's in the second column. So I'll do 2, right, comma, all right, and then we will do a, I don't know why, false for exact match. And note that it's not case sensitive. I'll hit enter, right, and then this, if I'm thinking about dragging, again, if I go right, I do not want the column to move, but if I go down, I do want it to move down. For rating this, so like I don't want this whole table to move, right? So A, E, so I'm gonna lock this, right, and this, and then this is a number, right? 2, 3, false. So I'm gonna still have to do manual work, hence why XLOOKUP is better. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click and drag, all right, and then I'm gonna go in and replace. So this would actually be the third column because that's what the average rating was there. And then I will do the fourth column, and then this will be the fifth column, hit enter, and then you can do the same thing where you hover across, find that bottom right corner, double click and go. All right, once I have these kind of moved and matched, I'm going to go ahead and highlight them. I'm going to Control or Command C, and then I'm going to right click, or you can go to the Home tab, drop down, paste. For Macs, I think it's words, but for us PC users, it's just this paste values. All right, so I'll paste the values. It will look like nothing happens. I will hit escape, right, and then I'll go here, right, and I'll see I don't have the formula in there anymore. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about very, very basic, like modifying data and looking at the data really quickly. And so one way that I look at data really quickly is I can just click on these, right, and then I will do data. You can actually do it from the Home tab, but I think it makes more sense to just do data. And then I like to throw on the Filters tab. In here, then I can go through and like click on these drop downs. And again, it looks a little bit different on Macs and PCs. But what I do a lot of times is I will scroll to the very bottom because that's where blanks are. This one, I don't have any blanks. What about here? This is all categorical, so you literally have thousands. Here, France, let's see if I have any blanks here. And you may think this is kind of tedious, but honestly, if you're ever doing statistical testing or anything like that, you're going to have some data with maybe some blanks or some nulls or some zeros that you're going to have to deal with. And so a lot of times I will do this early on just to kind of make sure. It helps me get a sense of my data too, because it's always numeric. So 25 to 94,287 ratings. Wow, that's crazy. And then I'll do price. I can get a sense of my cheapest bottle is $3.15. My most expensive bottle is 34,000 or 3,400. Wow, it's still really expensive, right? And then my year data. So I have 1961 right here, and then right? I have some NVs, so no values. And if I were doing some testing, I really wouldn't want to use that, especially if I'm going to utilize year. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck select all, right? And then I'm going to check on NV and just do okay. And then I can kind of see, okay, like I actually may have a small problem here because look at all of this data that I have no value on for the year, right? And so it's kind of a lot. Notice that it does kind of count down here. If I were looking for the observations, I could click here, Control or Command Shift up, right? And then you'll actually see down here it'll count. So I can see that I have 745 observations without the year data. And so depending on the approach, again, this isn't a stats class, so we could talk about possibilities with this. But what I may do is, honestly, I may create a new sheet and just get rid of this data so that I'm only working on data that is like the completed data. In Tableau, right, you'll notice when we do this, it doesn't actually tell you unless you try to use that year variable, which I think is kind of a pitfall of it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new sheet. I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to put no underscore year underscore data. And then I want to cut this. I want to move it all. A lot of ways to do this. Excel has gotten smarter. This used to be a really bad one, but you could just click and drag this and try and do Control or Command X and paste. The problem is then it moves all the data. Notice the filter isn't on there anymore, right? So I'm going to do undo, Control or Command Z. I'm going to go back to the full data. And what I'm going to do is kind of two things. I'm going to just hover over the titles. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to bring this over, paste it, and then rather selecting from the columns, I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to use keyboard shortcuts. So I would do Control Shift and then the right arrow key together, and then Control Shift down arrow key. Note they don't have to be hit at the same time, but Control and Shift have to be held together first, then use the arrow key. Then I can do Control or Command X or right click and cut. Right, I'll go here. I will then paste. And notice now, like, it should, right, only bring over the names, but it doesn't, right? So what it's in here, right, I'm going to undo, Control or Command Z, right? It's just starting from this first one, and then it's cutting everything behind it, right? That's unbelievably frustrating. And so you have to do it, right, sort of the old school way. So if you just Control or Command C to copy, and I don't know why this works, you'll notice your arrows change quite a bit. And so now it's actually just copying what's on top of this. And so if I copied it already, I'll go back, I will go here, I will then paste, and you'll see now in the year column, you're left with only the in these. All right, and so two things you could do here. You could just leave this as the full data, or what I could do is now I can hit escape because that is kind of confusing. I will then highlight the data again, Control Shift right arrow, Control Shift down arrow. Again, if you're not comfortable with the keyboard shortcuts, go watch the Excel video. Right, and then I'm going to make you nervous. I'm going to delete. Right, and then you're like, oh no, it's all gone. Again, we could always match it back if we needed to, so I'm not worried about deleting here because I have the raw data here if I needed to get back to it. But then what I would do is you could come up and just click here, and you can either clear the filter. You could honestly just go up here and click, and then I'll put the filter back on. You got to be clicked where I want it. Hey, put the filter back on. And then you'll see that now I only have the data that I kind of want to work with that has full and complete values. And again, sometimes that's useful to do, sometimes it's not. But I wanted to show you that kind of issue with like copying, cutting, and all that. I always then will do a couple things. So I will rename this. So I will rename full data underscore no blanks. It's something like that, and it's going to bug me that this isn't here, just so you have it. And then I would still want to know how many observations I had, especially because at the beginning, if I go to 1 and I do Control or Command Shift down, I look at the count. So I had 13,834. My full data, no blanks right here, Control or Command Shift down. My little count, I only have 100 and, that can't be right. Oh, it got rid of, oh, it's a great thing for me to show. So when I copied those and moved them anywhere that they were, Control down, it left a blank, which we don't want, right? Like, because if I notice, like if I'm holding Control down arrow, it just goes to a blank and stops. So we're going to want to organize this data and get rid of the blanks again. So I'm going to turn off the filter, right? I'm going to see if it's still there. I'm scrolling, it is there. Okay, again, just catching mistakes. All right, so I would then, the easiest way is just to, again, hover all your data. Please make sure you're not just clicking on this column and doing sort. It will try and catch you. It'll say, hey, you probably don't want to sort this data without everything with it, or else everything's going to mismatch. And so it automatically defaults to expand. I think that's the same on Macs, but we'll do sort, right? And I dragged the whole column. Remember, so that goes all the way to the very bottom of Excel. I'll do unique IOD, I'll do OK. And it again looks like nothing happens. But then if I hold here and I do Control Shift down, it goes all the way to the bottom, and it looks like I have 13,000 observations. I like to go to the no year data as well, and I may make a note to myself, Control or Command Shift down, and so 744. And so I'm meticulous. I like little notes to myself, and so you could type this in a cell over here. What I did last time for that text box, sometimes I'll do notes in there, if you go to insert, you can draw a text box and maybe do something like 744 observations were removed because we did not have year data. All right, so just an initial practice. This is a lot easier in other programs that you're coding where you can you have the code in front of you, and so you can like actually put little comments in your code. It's a little harder in Excel, but it is important to note that. Like I would note that if I was doing any analysis or anything on this. Other ways to do it, I really like the text box, but you could right click and do an I like comments because they pop out a little or they're on the right side and people are used to those at Word. But you can also do a new note and it actually pops up in a sticky pad and say something like 744 observations were removed because we did not have year data. All right, something like that. And it pops up a little red, so it'll do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm trying to think if I go back, Control or Command Shift up. Let's just do a quick pivot table. So I'm going to be in the full data, no blanks. I'm going to do Insert, Pivot Table, just because you use them a lot and you do okay. And then I just want a breakdown by the type or the style of line. So I'm going to pull that to rows. So it's like rows. And I really want to see how many do we have, the average price and the average rating. And so I think that the average price and average rating are easy for you all, right? So average price I'll bring here. All right, and then again, we need to do this drop down. It's an I on max. Then it jumps to everything for us PC people. We have to then do field settings, change it to average. And so then it starts with like average of rating. I'm just going to delete this and title it rating. Do okay, because the number format, oh, it's already average. We'll say of rating. I guess their pivot table has already named that. It may have been one we did earlier. I'll come back and do the formatting here in just a little bit. Then I'll do price, drop down, value field settings, max, just click the I, average of price, and then I'm going to do number format. I'll go ahead and make it a currency. 2 decimals is fine. Do okay, and then it displays it automatically. We could do it manually up in the Home tab when we click, but no need to do that. The last thing is kind of a hard one. You're like, what am I going to do to get count in there? And so if we drag in a categorical variable like style, right, which are the types, it will give us the option to count. It actually defaults to it. So if I drag it, and the ordering doesn't matter, it's kind of up to you wherever you want to put it, right? But then it does count of style. Most people aren't going to know what that means. That's not super intuitive. I'm going to make this box a tiny bit bigger for us to see. What I would do is I would go to the drop down value field setting or just the I for the Mac, and then I would just change this to in, right? Do okay, and then I think that makes a little bit more sense. You could put sample size, something like that. For my average rating, again, I would hover over it. I would go to the Home tab. I would reduce the decimals that it's displaying. Please note that the decimals are still in there, right? If I click on this number, you see it in there. So if I'm doing any math or anything like this, it would still do it. I don't think I showed this on the last one, so I'm not going to build up a visual here, right? But what I'm going to do is, I mean, you can still do all your formatting stuff. You, again, do not have to. This is purely just what I like to do. I don't know why I did that for the blue. So maybe I'll do my red. That's a little bit lighter than I like, but whatever. I like to, and again, this is just my personal preference. I like to center things. If you don't like them to be super wide and you want it to kind of show this, another thing that you could do is up here, this wrap ABC is wrap text. It will wrap it horizontally. I like to do that for these, wrap text, and then get it to kind of maybe ones that kind of make a little bit more sense. And then honestly, I can click here, double click, and it will fit, and then I can kind of drag it to how I want to see it. So I kind of like this and then rating underneath it. So if you like that, what you can do is, I believe this is the same in Mac and PCs, is just click where you want to hit an enter. Because if you just hit enter in Excel, it always goes down. But if you want a new line, you'll just hold Alt Enter, right? And then it actually creates an inner line there, which is really nice rather than like forcing the wrap there. If you want, you can actually set it so it's equal for you. Alt Enter, right? And then I would do something like center, and then if you really wanted to, you could have these up here. Entirely up to you. The last thing that I will show you, besides, I may wrap this thing in a thick bar, and then wrap this in. This is why people don't like bars, because watch, I'll do this, and it replaces the thick with the thin. But I'll do that. What if I wanted this red data? What if I wanted really quickly just to get all the data on a red one? Well, I could go back here and sort it and all those things and do that. But if you know how to use a pivot table, first I'll rename this pivot underscore table and just style, just something so I have a little hint of what it is. But if I wanted this, right, if I wanted all the data on all these, right, I used to just go in here and you can click and it's like, what do you want? But if you actually are in the data, and this doesn't make any sense why this works, but on any of these three, if you double click, it will then create a sheet where it's giving you all of the red wines. And it's already in like a standard table design format. I haven't shown you that yet. I will. But I could rename this red wine only. So now I could literally go get all 4 years or types of these wines split up by sheets without having to filter it, create all those things, and it's already in a table format. And so table formats can be a little bit clunky, especially when you're learning them, so I don't like them early on. Okay, I think that's enough Excel. So let's just go ahead and save this. All right, so I'm gonna go here. And then let's read this into Tableau. So I will minimize this. Open up Tableau Desktop, Microsoft Excel. I want you to read in the data set that you've just worked on. So I have to go find that, which is going to be in our class stuff. So here, Tucson, tutorials and trainings, Excel and Tableau, and here's the one I was recording. So I'll do open. Again, it's going to think for just a little bit. I let it think. Please don't just hit buttons. Again, we're going to be smart. We're going to check the use data interpreter. Right, and again, it's got to think. It's thinking through all those sheets, trying to figure out what's going on. Since we combined everything, we can just bring over full data, no blanks, and we don't need to mess with everything. So remember at the end where we had that data extract error? One way to do that, if we know that our data is not going to be updating, but if your data is going to update, don't do this, right? Just make it, you'll never upload it to Tableau Public, honestly, if you're using data that's constantly updating, that's probably private. But in our case, since it's static, over here, you should see the extract button. And it's going to think, and then it's going to go through and just create an extract of that so we don't have that kind of final step. If you forget this or you miss this, I have that link in the video that walks you through the same process over and over, and it's actually gotten a lot faster, probably because so many people got so pissed off at it. So let's go ahead and create a new sheet. I have to actually save this, so I'm going to save, it's where the extract is going. It auto sources to like your Tableau repository, data sources, cool, fine with me. So I'll do that, and then I should be able to, it's thinking, that I don't like to let it stop thinking. All right, it's done thinking. All right, we created a new sheet. So we're going to create now what we call an exploratory dashboard. So again, we're not applying kind of, oh, I know what my finding is and my job is to sell that to someone or make a decision off of it. We're going to just set something up to where us and the user, if they wanted to, could play around with the data to try and pull out sort of some basic insights. And so I'm going to create just some very, very basic visuals. I'm going to look at what's the best way to do this? Let's start with our very simple bar graph. And for this, I'm going to make the price of the wine my primary indicator, right? That's my variable of interest. And then I'm going to look a lot by style. I would love to look by country, but right now that's a lot. So we're going to look by our very simple category of style. And I'll see maybe how year impacts it. I think that's important. Country, all these things that we want people to be able to play around with. And so let's first just set ourselves up for success. So I know I don't want price to be summed out every single time because I'm going to have a different number of observations. And so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to right click, I'm just going to go ahead and change the default properties. I'm going to do number format. I always want it to be a currency, and I'll do 2 decimals, make sure the dollar sign's there. If you have an international computer, it may be different. You can just change the prefix, that's perfectly fine. We'll do okay. And then again, I want it to aggregate always to be an average. So I'll do the drop down. I will then do, it is going to be, where are you? Default properties, aggregation, and just change it to average. I'll probably use average rating. I don't think I'm going to use number of ratings right now because that's a variable that's a little bit more complicated, and it's rounded at certain places, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to visualize it just yet, so I'm going to leave it. So for average rating, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll do the drop down. I will do default properties. I'll just go ahead and do the aggregation average. Same thing, drop down. Where are you? Default properties, number format, and then I'm going to do a custom one. Actually, not a custom one. I'm going to do a number standard. We'll do nothing, custom, and I'm going to do space, stars. All right, and that way it will always highlight it and put those things on the axes and such. Okay, thinking about other things that I would need to format. If you needed to change the name on things, you could do this drop down, and it's called aliases, right? Where you can actually go through and edit these. So I could do something like red wine, right? In here, rosé wine. And so when it displays this, it may be a little bit more clear. We may not need this, but I just wanted to go ahead and show it to you, and I'll do okay. And so let's kind of do best practice. So I always, always, always like to start with what I care about. So I care about price, right? And I may rename this. So I'm going to rename this because it's technically average price. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to just type average price, do enter. And then I'm just going to drag it out. Where I put it, honestly, at the initial piece doesn't really matter. I think if you drag it there in the drop spot, it just does like a kind of like a table. Here it does a bar graph. Entirely up to you, doesn't really matter. And so I'm going to do average price, and I'm going to do the style in the columns. And it actually did it really nicely that I can kind of see it. It's just things at the bottom are cut off. If I wanted a horizontal bar graph, I could flip it, or if I accidentally built it in a way that was the case, you could just flip it, right? If you flipped these things here. If you manually want to make things bigger, there's 2 ways again. If you're on a Mac, I think that's actually both Control Shift B, right? That makes it bigger. Manually, we're doing it. You can also change it up here where it's fit width, fit height, kind of up to you. You can also, so I'm going to do Control Z because it works. If for some reason, right, you wanted to manually do it, you can actually like drag these columns this way, just like Excel. You can also go to the bottom, right, and kind of move them down, or if I can move this up so that it does this. Some people like to display longer titles vertically, so you could right-click and rotate the label if you wanted to. I don't think that makes a ton of sense unless it's like really tall, something like this. Entirely up to you. I'm going to Control Z, Command Z, undo, and then honestly, Control Shift B. Yeah, if I'm not clicked on it, sorry, Control Shift B. Hey, Control Shift B. Oh, maybe it doesn't want to do it anymore. I guess I broke it when I'm automatically doing it. Interesting. Okay, well, let's just do it manually. It will keep them equal distance, so it won't let me like size one bar or another. Again, my personal preference, I would right click, format, and get rid of these grid lines, right? So I would just go to the grid lines tab. And again, you may be on sheet or column or rows. I don't know why it says none, but there are some, so I still get rid of them that way. Other things, if you're someone that doesn't really love this axis, because it's still kind of hard, if you hover, you can see it. But what we could do is we can take average price and drop it onto label, and you'll notice that it puts it right on top. So if that were the case, I may honestly just right click and you can do uncheck show header. If you ever you want it back, this took me a long time to learn in Tableau because you could undo, I think. No, undo doesn't work. That's why I was so frustrated. But if you go back to worksheet, you can go through and show a bunch of different things here where it'll show like the different axes and such. You can get them all back on there. I believe it's under, I'm not sure where it is off the top of my head. I have to always kind of think about it. Yeah, remember when I said it took me a long time to learn because it's like hidden. It's actually up here on the pill, right? Because it's actually showing this. This is that row axis. So you'll do this drop down and you'll do show header. And honestly, there's so many times where I've messed it up that I've just had to Google it. And usually most of the stuff's on there pretty easily. So I'm actually going to, again, uncheck it. I don't really care about the style here, so I'm going to hide the field label, so I'm just right-clicking. I like to organize these in the order because it makes no sense here without it. So the order is kind of up to you. And then I like the average bars. Again, you don't have to. You could do an average with a 95% confidence interval. But for us, look, there must be a ton of variation in this data, which is nuts. So I will do Control or Command Z. I'll probably just do the average line, table, and then again, you can hover and see. I again like to always modify it, so I will, formatting will change the type. I'm going to edit it. All right, and then I like to, again, instead of showing the label as a customization, like what it computed, you can do it custom. Then you could say average price equals, and then you could insert a computation then, and then it's showing you the average. You can title these things here. So I may do title something like this. Again, remember that this does not have spell check, so be very, very careful or use a word processing tool. So I may do like average price for, and I'm going to show you something relatively interesting, a dynamic title. And so you could say average price by wine type or something like that. But I'm going to do for, and then I'm going to leave a space, and then I'll do wines. And I'm going to come back, and then what you can do under this insert tab is you can add things like a variable. So I'm going to add the style here, and I'm going to change it to be red maybe, just because it pops a little bit more, and maybe bold, and I'm going to do apply. And then you could do for all wines. And you may be like, well, okay, like that's kind of weird. Oh no, I put average. What do I do here? Edit. I want not the commutation gray, I want the value. All right, we're still learning and catching ourselves. Value, okay. I like it to be kind of dashed, I'll be honest, so I would do some formatting. Again, you do not have to do this, but I may do like a light gray, or I can't really see that so well, so maybe I'll do something like this. Entirely up to you. You can do things where actually what I might do is if I did format here, I may do for the text, the font is always Tableau public, but I could bold it, something like that, so it just pops a little bit more. Then the last thing I want to do is I want to do a filter for this. So later on, we're going to be able to kind of play around with wines by the different type. And so to do that, I showed you last time where you could just do style, drag to filters, which is perfectly fine. You can also automatically kind of skip a step by just doing style. I'll do a drop down. and then I will do, there should be a show filter button right here, right? Show filter, then it puts it up in here, and then it puts it over here. And notice now my dynamic title. So what I can start with, I like the single value drop down or the multiple values drop down. I think the list gets a little bit clunky, so I'll do this, right? And then because I don't have enough space, it says for all these. But then if I were to uncheck and then I do this, it says red wine. This is where I actually messed up my aliases, which kind of stinks. But I could have something like this where it's all wine. So then I would honestly go back and I would change my aliases. So you can do this here, aliases. And then I'm just going to, what if I could clear the aliases? Okay, and I'll try again. Notice it's dynamic, right? Updated it here, which is really nice because Excel doesn't do that if you're kind of playing around with it. All right, so I like that. You can edit this thing as well, so you can format it. You can do it for all filters, which I will probably do. I wish I could rename this. I don't remember exactly how to do it. Oh, edit title, duh. Wine style, do okay. All right, and I'll put it up there, which is great. Let's see, the last thing that I'll do is I will drag average price to color. That way I can see both by height and by the color as well. And notice I did use color on, it is a number, right? It's a continuous variable. That's why it shows up here. If I were on if I undid and I did style onto color because it's categorical, this is where you get kind of the harder, like harsher breaks, and you can actually go in and change these colors. You can do the same with the wines, but it's typically on a spectrum. So I'm going to do price on the color as well, and you kind of hover over and see the basics of it. If there were like any additional information you would want in the like tooltip just to see. So when I hover over this box is called the tooltip. I may also want to see just the average rating with it. So I can bring it and drag it to tooltip and then hover, and now it actually shows that. If I don't like the ordering, so notice now that the stars is kind of the main piece. I don't love that. You can just click on the tooltip button, and you'll notice, right, you can kind of modify these things and move them around. So I'm just going to go in here, Control or Command X, I will cut it, and then I will move it, I will paste it. If you leave that space, it will leave it in there. So kind of a cool little thing as you want. And same thing, like I may then go into the tooltip and just do wine style and do okay. And you'll see kind of it hovers over. Okay, so I'm going to rename this just bar graph by type, something of that nature. That'll be important later. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I recommend that you do the same. I don't really want to save it in my repository. You can if you want. I'm going to change the location, but I won't have you watch that. All right, so just save it. Again, I just save it kind of locally. I'll create one more where let's just do something simple. I want to show you scatter plots because they should be so easy, but they aren't. And they can be kind of frustrating if you're trying to figure out like what the heck's going on here. And so I want to show how rating may impact price. And I want to be able to split it again by type or look at it that kind of way. And so I'm going to drag rating over. I'm going to drag price over. It will always start when I bring two numeric things. It will start as a scatter plot. And if you have your axes flipped, you can again flip it. But I think in terms of stats, X variable, Y variable. But you're like, there's only one data point, right? And so what's happening is it's just pairing up the average rating for the average price. If you want a dot for every single data point, you have two options. So under the analysis tab, I'm guessing your aggregate measures is checked. Uncheck it, all right? And then you get a dot for every single one. If you don't like that, or if you know you want a dot for like a different specific piece, you can drag that onto what we call detail. And so if I wanted just one dot for every country, right, what I could do is I could drag that to detail, and I have less because I don't have that many countries. If I wanted it by style, there's only going to be four, right, one for each style. This one, I actually have the name of the wine, and so as long as there's not a lot of duplicates in there, I could actually drag that. And then when you hover over a dot, it actually shows you the bottle. So really cool that I can actually sit here and see, right, this is a 4.4 rating. It's got a $1,300 price tag, which is wow. I may want to know what country that's from too, so I may drag country over to tooltip, and again, nothing happens, but it's here. It's like, ooh, it's that bottle from that country. It's rated 4.4 stars. A little bit of cleanup, right? Again, you don't have to, but I like to get rid of these kind of grid lines. So format, it should take me there into the sheet, but then I'll go to the lines, none. And then for this, notice all this dead white space. And a lot of it's because we just don't have any data with a rating between 1 and 5. And again, we can modify it. So I would right click, edit axis. And there's two ways to kind of do it. You can just uncheck include 0, and a lot of times it will kind of automate it and see what that kind of looks like. But I think that looks at least a little bit better. You can set it up to be like 2.5 to 5. I may do something like that so it's like a little bit clearer. So I'll do like a custom one where it's 2.0, 5.0. Just so people are kind of aware. And then I would want a tick mark on there. So I would do fixed, and then you could do 0 to 1. You could do the minor ones where it's like every other like small one, just so you can see it, but it only labels on these interval tick marks. So you could do something like maybe 0.5 if you really wanted to, and you click off. It's another weird thing that's with Tableau. It's sometimes you don't hit anything, you just have to check off of it. I think that's okay. That's not too bad. Okay, so we have all this information. I kind of want to see a lot of things by the wine type, and so I'm going to bring the style or type over. Lots of different things you can do here. Again, you want to try and not make things too cluttered, but it's kind of up to you as the user here. I may start by bringing things over to color and see kind of what it looks like. So it looks like I have a lot of blue on the front. And it's because I just have most of the red wines. So I may just add a filter with this. So I'll do style, show filter, and again, I like to do the drop down single or multiple values drop down so you can kind of look at it. You can make it a little bit bigger if you really wanted to. You can mess with the colors here if you don't like them. And again, I did it by type this time instead of by average price because clearly it's going to be this way. You could also drag style down to shape, and it has like where it'll show it as different shapes. Maybe you like that. Again, the blue kind of dominates, but you can do the same thing where you click on this and you can modify the shape. So maybe I want this to be the plus. I want the rosé to be, this looks kind of like a rose. This looks like it's sparkling white. I don't know, something like that. Do okay. Something that you think is interesting. You can actually put pictures and stuff in here. It's pretty cool. The last thing I would probably do is I am a stats guy, right? I like to see like a line of best fit and what may fit in there. So I would go to my analytics tab and I would bring over a trend line. I do a little bit of stats here, and it's cool. Like it's a little bit harder to see in Excel and stuff, and it's harder to mess around with it. But I'll start with like linear, and it gives me a different regression line for every color that I have. So I was strategic in doing this, which to me is pretty cool because if I look at the red and it's got a steeper line, if you hover over that line, it gives you the R squared, it gives you the p-value, so it's statistically significant. And if you remember what that slope tells me is, well, at 190, it's saying as average rating goes up by 1 star, right? Red wines price on average increases by $190, which is interesting because that's going to be the steepest slope. So the rating is most impactful for red wines, least impactful for whatever this is color, the rosé wines as you go through, which is really interesting to kind of see. And you can modify these pretty easy. So you can right click and you could do, I think it's describe trend line. No, that's the statistical piece, which is nice. We'll come back to this, I promise. Right click, edit all trends lines, I think. Yeah, and where you can now, you can just kind of click and kind of see which one. I think this may actually fit best. Here, some sort of polynomial. Ooh, I kind of like that. And so maybe there's a fourth degree. Fourth. All right, so some people may think like, well, this is way off, but if it's most of my data is here, it may actually not be that bad for predictions. I think the third degree kind of looks maybe the closest. And so I may do something like this. And then I would describe this one for sure. So I would put something like relationship, relationship between average price and average rating by wine style. And you could do a dynamic title here if you wanted, something like that. So I think that's pretty cool to kind of look at, and you get a lot of information kind of really, really quickly. The further you go into this thing, the more picky you can be. Again, I'd like to keep numeric things maybe a little bit separate, which is just me. We have the filters. This thing does adjust, so like you can just see the red or just see the rosé, sparkling, all of these kind of things, which is pretty cool. All right, so we have some like very simple visuals. I'm gonna rename this. So scatter. Let's do rating underscore price. This one's a little bit more limited than Excel. I'm gonna do just a price map really quickly, just because I want to connect these visuals. So this should be pretty simple. Go ahead and save just to be safe. We'll do this. I'm going to bring out average price because that's what I care about. I'm going to bring out country because that looks pretty cool. It's a bar graph, so I'll go to show me, and I'll just do a really easily filled map. It's something like this, which looks good. And then, I don't know, I'll do, so average price. So average price by country. Apply, do okay. And notice I don't have rating or anything on here. I'd probably still drag price onto the label. Anything that goes on the label automatically also goes in the tooltip. I would let people play around and filter this by type because we've done that before, but you don't actually have to add it here. I'm going to add the country filter. So I'm going to do drop down, show filter, and then do this. And then I will do a multiple value drop down list. And this is pretty simple because I really am just thinking, well, I'd love to have a way to like look at for Canada that breakdown by style and stuff of that nature. And there's a lot of ways to do it. I could add it as a filter later on. I'm going to show you how to connect these. So a lot of times I'll come back to this and have to add things. But if I know I want things to talk across similar variables, I usually will go ahead and add that as a filter as well. So I'll show the filter. I'll do this, and then multiple values drop down. And then I'll just rename this, just price map or something like price filled map. Now I want to put all three together. So I don't want a sheet. I now want a dashboard. So it's that second little icon over here. I will click on this. There are lots of different sizes. So lots of different options here. You can go nuts with this thing. Lots of ways to bring over visuals. Again, yours may look a little bit bigger. You can do the sizes where it's a fixed size where you can then actually modify to make like it look best. There is like automatic. It will size based upon what screen, which can be kind of clunky. You can set it as a range. I generally like to stick with fixed sizes, and then you could do a custom one. If you know where it's going to be displayed on, you can set it that way. That way it's as consistent as possible when it says from here to Tableau public. And so I'm going to do, let's do desktop browser just because that's what we're going to kind of build off of. And then I like to rename this. So price dashboard, so average price dashboard. Hit enter. Okay, and then all those things, look, I have a friggin' typo, so I'm gonna right click, rename that. It's gonna drive me nuts. GRAPH. All right, and so I'm gonna drag these things over. There's two ways to do it, so I'm gonna make this maybe a little bit wider. There's this tiled format where it starts and just drops it in and fits the space. There's also this floating that I'll talk about a little bit later, but we're going to start by doing what we call tiled, and just I'm going to start because here's what I want. I want the map on the top and my two other graphs below it, just because I think that makes the most sense. And so I'm going to take my price map, bring it over. It automatically fills the whole thing, and it brings over everything, all the filters, the basic, what do I call it, legend here, things of that nature. It's going to look clunky early. That's okay. We're going to kind of come back to things. So I'm going to start, I'll bring bar graph. I don't want it to be half of this. I want it to kind of be on the bottom. So I'll click that. And anything that's kind of the filter there, it brought it over, which notice that I have it multiple times. We're going to be able to leverage that to make our life a little bit easier. But last thing, I'll bring the scatter, right? I'm going to bring it. I'll go here. And then everything is nuts, right? And so here may be one where I actually don't want to see these titles because look, like it's pretty clear that this is the average price by type. This is average rating by average price. And so what I may do is I may just right click and just hide the title, right? Right click, hide the title. Right click, hide. And again, this is just all about spacing. You do not have to. I just think it makes our life a little bit easier. And then the legends are kind of, these are kind of specific here. I think it's important to know this if I'm going to kind of be working with these lines. But right now it's just taking up a lot of space. All right, same thing here where this may be important. So I'm going to try and get it involved over here eventually. And then I have style, wine style, average price, country, and style, which first off, there's three styles. So I am going to delete, right, this one and this one. It doesn't matter which one I delete, but then I'm going to connect this to all three of these. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to do this drop down, and then you can apply it to worksheets, and you could do only worksheets. You could do all using this data source, all using the related data source. I'm kind of a control freak, so I like to do selected worksheets, and then I just select that I want those two, and I go through there. So I do okay. All right, and now you can check it. If I do this, I uncheck, everything is gone, but if I do red, all of these are all that remains. Rosé, right? Sparkling, white. So it allows me to filter all the graphs together. All right, I'm going to put this in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this. All right, you may have to play around a little bit, but I'm going to bring it like this and bring it down. All right, that way it kind of sits. You are going to have to format this a little bit. It's a little bit clunky. It is what it is. Just make sure you're kind of clicked on it and going through there. Later on, I'm also going to want to filter all this by country. Notice I didn't put country on these, but I should still be able to add the filter, right? So I'm going to do this, drop down, apply to worksheets, and then selected worksheets, and I'll just add them to the other two, and I'll do okay. And then I'm going to put this down here, right next to this one. All right, so I'm taking up a little bit less space. And then the other things I want to put on like specific spots on the graph. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change these. Instead of tiled, I'm going to make them floating. All right, so I'm going to click this little drop down, and it's going to be about halfway down, and I'll do floating. And you'll notice that it kicks out. Now I can drag it and kind of move it around. I may honestly make this thing wide. If you go a little bit taller. There is some auto formatting that you can do. So you can do this, and I think it's, which one is it? can't remember, arrange items, auto arrange multiple columns, something like that. So you do have to do kind of a little bit of a playing around here where I may have it something like this. Oops. All right, so again, I'll let you kind of play around. Oops, again, Control Z is my best friend. I'm just gonna make this super wide and then drop down, arrange items, single column. Nope, I want multiple columns, daggone it. Arrange items, multiple columns, and then as I shrink it up, it should do something like this. All right, and so I just have to mess around here, and so then I might, what I could do, is kind of a clunky way to do it, but I'm gonna do it anyways. You can actually bring in blank containers, right? So I would bring in a horizontal container, maybe drag this right here, and then I would bring this down. What I can do actually is, I wanted to bring this filter in there. I'm going to format a little bit, so I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to make this, again, floating, drop down, floating, and I'll move it over here and for later. And then the last one that's not floating, I'll make it floating. And then I will, sometimes it'll auto do it, but I'm just going to delete this container. And then it buys me a little bit of space. And so now I can, right, so there are ways to fit this. I don't know why, we've got a lot of white space off to the side. Takes me a little while. I'm not sure it should fit in there, but it's okay for now. For us, usually I'm only displaying like the United States or something like that, but I would find something like this where maybe it makes a little bit of sense. And you can format this thing as well, right? You can go in, you can format it, you can do this legend where you do all that, where you change the sizing and stuff. So like maybe I make it like 8, and you can actually type in smaller, I think. So like 6. Enter. Okay, like something like there. Same thing, like make this a little smaller or something that's a little easier. Careful, like old people, they don't like small things, but for us, I think it kind of makes sense to get this a little bit smaller. Just kind of put it here. And then now, let me see. So I've got this. You can actually do the opposites. Let's see if this works. I can change and I can take it off floating. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it and just try and put it right below. Right, and then do here where it will have something like that. And so then you want to kind of play around like what kind of fits. Our sizing is just a little bit squished. I don't love that kind of have this here, but again, you've got to kind of move stuff here. I'm going to again do, I don't know that we need this legend, so I'm just going to delete it. I like to keep things centered if I can. Last little couple sets of things. I am going to, I'm going to do a show a dashboard title. So it always starts with like just the very basics, but I would do like an overview, maybe like an exploration of average price, average rating, I'll say by average rating, tag on it, rating, not rating, let's go a little slower, Gray. Exploration of average rating, style, let's do style, and my goodness, I need to install Grammarly. This you kind of have to play with, so I may do like bold, I'll do apply. It is kind of large, so I'll make sure it's highlighted, and I'll do 14 or something like that. Do apply, daggone it, Control Z. I'm going to change the font size to 14, something like that. And so here, one cool thing that I've seen people do, and it makes people nervous, is you change this to white and then do apply. And then what you can do is You can, if you're on this box here, you can right click and then do either format title, and then you have this shading that you can change to black, right? And I don't know why when it does actually like the title, it does the whole back dashboard, but it just helps. It makes life a little bit easier. You can do the same thing within it. So like maybe you want to make this like, I don't know, maybe a lighter shade of that. What you can do for the report, do any color that you want, that you think is interesting. I'll just do something like this. Yeah, and then what we can do is tell people how to use this. So what's going on here? Oh, our font here has become white because I changed it up here. Let's go ahead, let's do format, this legend. Let's go ahead and make sure this is back to being black. And then the font is bold, black. I don't know why that went away. Some little things that we can do. And so you could do like explore these, right? And they all will modify. Like, but those filters are pretty obvious and pretty easy to use. So I think those make sense. We're going to do what we call an action. Okay, and you can format, so if you don't like that each of these are like a different white background, you can actually click and format on these graphs. I think you'll want to do the fill and then the worksheet like this. Maybe that would be, and if I just click there, it should take me to each one of these. Make sure your coloring is kind of consistent. And then I click on this visual. So you can do lots of interesting stuff. I don't, now that this is here, I don't love it. So I'm gonna move it up to here. It just throws me off that it's there. It is exploratory, so it shouldn't really matter, but it matters to me, right? It's kind of ugly. I'm just going to delete it because if I don't like it and I think it'll distract other people, then I'm going to. I notice that the axes do kind of change a little bit as we go through here. The last thing is like, so those work, but what if I wanted to like be able to hover over this and see what type of wine it is and what country it's from? Or what if I wanted to hover over sparkling and just see sparkling on the map and the how those averages kind of change across the region? You can do that, right? It's called an action. So so first off, let's be safe. We'll do dashboard. We will do actions. And so what I'm going to do is I want the scatter plot. If I hover over it, I want, what do I want? I want it to only talk to the map. Actually, no, I want it to talk to all these things. And so I want it to filter out um, so I can only see like what country it's from. And then the bar graph update to show what type it is in the average rating. And so I'm going to do an add action filter and I'll do OK. Well, it didn't do anything. Dashboard, actions, add action, filter. Okay, there we go. And then I always get in the bad habit of I forget this. So I'm going to name it. So I'll say scatter to other two visuals. All right, and just some basic best practices. We always want to do, some of them may be select, but people don't know to click. And so I like to do hover, and then I'm going to start by doing them one by one, but you could technically do them all together. So I'm going to basically uncheck these and say, okay, when I hover over the scatter, what do I want to change? Well, I want the bar graph and the price filled map to modify. And then when we clear the selection, what do I want to happen? Do I want to stay the filter on? No, right? I want it to go back to, showing all the filters. And then, right, for some people, you'll see this stupid thing down here is like, I can't see it. And so a lot of times you need a mouse. So I do control and then I roll out. What I've seen other people do is on their like background settings, they've had to make it horizontal. So like I'm gonna do okay and do okay. What you would do is you would do this, and then you would do display settings, and then when they pop up, right, I have two screens on right now, but you would do for this one, you would have to change it to be, um, where is the display orientation to be um, either landscape or vertical or something like that, and then you'll be able to see it. But ideally, just get a mouse and zoom out. But now what you'll notice will happen is if I hover over one of these points, I now know exactly where that wine is from. It's from France, and the bar graph has changed to show me that it's a red wine. Right? If I do this one, still in France. I bet in France a lot of these times. Ooh, this one's Italy. Things of that nature, and so that's really cool. Um, It would also be cool to hover over this and have the bar graph and the scatter plot do that, or hover over the bar graph and have um, this change in this. So we could do one action to do all of those, but I like thinking through the logic if you didn't want to show them all. So I would again do dashboard actions, right? And then I could do, it's killing me that typo's there. I could just modify this one, but I'm just going to add an action. Um, we could do a highlight for if we wanted to like just highlight the country that we're in, if we were going from like the scatter, but for most of us, we'll do highlight. There are lots of things that we can do, like going to URLs, but we're just going to highlight. And then I want really the bar graph and the scatter map and the price filled map to talk to, right, the scatter plot and the filled map. So I want the bar graph to also talk to the filled map, and the filled map to also talk to the scatter plot and all that. And then again, I like hover, and then it doesn't have, oh, makes me nervous that it doesn't have what to do after. Maybe it's a standard one, so I'm going to do filter. Oh yeah, it's because I was supposed to do filtered, right? Not hover. So I will uncheck this, and I will do map and bar graph to all. And then make sure we do show all values. I'll show you what happens. So if you do keep filtered values, again, control, do okay, do okay. If I hover over like the US, right, the bar graph will modify and then it doesn't go back. It's not working anyways. Dashboard, actions, scatter, we're gonna edit. And it's because I chose menu, not hover. My brain's tired. Do okay. Okay. All right, now if I hover, right, and then I hover off, it stays, right? But I wanted to get back to all the data, right? And so that's why we typically are going to do the actions. This, we're going to do edit, and then we do show all values to bring it back. Right? All right, okay. And now when I hover over the US, right, or Canada, it only looks like I only have a couple bottles of wine. Right here, I have from the US. So it's modifying each way. And same thing where I do sparkling, then right, I can see the map auto. It's like lots of cool, interesting stuff. Okay, that's enough. Let's save this thing both locally and let's publish it to our Tableau public profile. Again, for you, what I want you to do is use a different background color and modify your map in a different way. One thing you can do with maps, it's up to you. There are a lot of different types that you can do, but if you go back to this and you do map and you do background maps, you can do like a dark one. That one may look a little bit better on our dashboard, a little bit cleaner. I would then want to see this edited to be white. So I would do format, this legend, and I would change this to be white, bold, and then this to be white, bold, or something like that. Why didn't it do it? Close. Doesn't like it. Edit colors. I shouldn't have to edit the colors because that's it. Here, edit title. I mean, in here, Control A and make it white. But that's not going to help me with the other pieces. Drop down, format, this legend, white. Huh, I don't know what was going on there. Close. And that so just makes it a little bit easier to kind of see. And again, you can do something wider. So let's go through and save this thing. And a couple things here. Number one, I want to make sure that I don't see all of these individual visuals. I only want to see the dashboard. And depending how your settings are kind of set up, you may have to do some modifications. You may not. So first thing is obviously you're going to save this thing local. Oops, I shouldn't hit that. So however you have this, just save. And then for Tableau Public, for most of you all, if it's through desktop, I think you can do through server and then do save to Tableau Public, or obviously save to Tableau Public. And if you haven't saved before here, you'll have to log in, which I'll save you me watching this. All right, so you log in, and it's automatically going to save as the title that you have it. I would ultimately rename this thing. I'm not going to mark off for it, but you'll see this thing pop up. And if you have your settings right, you won't see everything else. Some of you all may have, and I'll zoom in here. I got to sign into my public account as well, which makes no sense. Da-da-da. But once you see this, if you see the other tabs, what you would do is you would do settings and just turn this off, right? Sometimes it's all on show all sheets. And again, we don't care about what would in here. If I see this on your profile, I know you did it. Plus, just look at how much uglier it makes it look. So if you already have it turned off, great. If not, make sure you're looking at this sheet when you say to not show all sheets. And then it's up to you in terms of if you want to rename it or something like that. I would, so it's not like assignment 1 or assignment 2. Sorry, I shouldn't hit edit there. It's unintuitive to rename this, but if you go, I believe down here in the details, you can name it something like this, like exploration of wine prices, something like that. And go into those pieces. You can describe it. You don't have to do that, but again, I think it makes your profile look a little bit nicer. In terms of what you're going to submit, you'll take this URL, make sure it works. So you can either do the share button, make sure you don't get the embed code, but the link, you can copy this and just put it in that Excel file. I'll open that really quick. Right, so you'll have it and you'll just put it in to this box. Right, make it a little bit easier. If the URL doesn't auto link, it's fine as long as we can copy paste it, but please always check. So if it does do this, make sure it opens. It doesn't say anything about rendering or anything like that. If for some reason you're getting that rendering issue, you can go back to your profile and just make sure it's there. So I have this one kind of buried a little bit. I can't remember, it's here. So then just click on it and make sure it's there. You can also use this URL at the top, so you'll do that. And now I'll show you a little more bonus as we jump in. If you want to do it, if not, you're perfectly fine. So like what I can do is if I want to clean it up, I can hold Control, click on these 3, right click, and I can hide them. Then the dashboard is all that I'm looking at. I can still, again, go back and edit them if I want, and be great. Maybe one little bonus thing, we'll see if you're still paying attention. If you want to bring out text, you can bring out, I would bring this out in a floating tab, so you don't have to put it somewhere, but I may bring out like text here, and then I'll put like hover over the visuals to, I'll say hover over the visuals and utilize the filters to learn more. And then I'll do this, something that pops. Again, your color may be different. Maybe this. I'll do okay. All right, and then it's something to like let people know that, hey, like I can do more. So like when I do this, usually I'll do like a little asterisk. I'll do, and again, I know this is super small. I actually don't know why this is so small. But then I'll maybe make this like let's make this 6. Do okay. And then just something small where people can kind of see it and leverage it, right? So let's put it right there. Utilize this space. If you don't like this thing on the map, you can actually go to the map. And here you can do map, Map options, I think. Yeah, and then just undo. We'll actually undo allow pan and zoom. I should have done that before, but it's not going to update here. But then I will undo like the map search, the layers, and the toolbar. That way maybe it's a little bit nicer. Note that it does unhide it, and it doesn't update the friggin' map over here, which stinks. So, easy fix. Let's put it over here. Let the filters to learn more, right? And then I may, honestly, it's going to kind of bug me. I'll center it. Do okay. Okay, I think that looks okay. Now I will just save locally and then server. Now I can just do Tableau public, save to Tableau public. It will ask if I want to overwrite. If you do save to Tableau public as, it's going to ask the exact same thing. I hope. Yep, it's just going to save over. And now you just have one visual. And it should look relatively nice. And it should match close to what you see. So I see, look, I can't see that now. So what I may do, and sometimes you just have to kind of play around, I may go into this and I will make this, I don't know, 12, okay. Oops, 12's too big. Let's do 10, okay. All right, maybe I'll just spin it down this way so it's maybe equal. And it's as easy as save, server, Tableau public, save to Tableau public. And the spacing is just a little bit different. So it's because I've got a landscape browser, I think, that I'm working off right now, which makes life a little bit harder on us. There is just some pricing, so like some just differences there, but this looks good. All right, to submit it, you can either take the URL from up here, or you can just go back to your profile. I do want to make sure it's there. Don't worry if the image here doesn't populate, just sometimes it just doesn't. So then just copy this, go back to your Excel file, go here, paste this in, and then save. Hopefully we don't, no errors here. And then so you're gonna upload just this file and we'll grade it from there. All right, I hope this was useful. Please let me know if you have any questions.